tough atmosphere to go to. And then obviously playing Connor McDavid. I mean, Edmonton as a team hasn't been great, but at any night Connor McDavid could win a game for the Oilers, and they always seem to get up to play when the Ducks come to town, especially Leon Draisaitl, who's one of the many Duck killers in the league, along with guys like Anthony Duclair and Max Domi. So that's going to be tough. And I think not to skip over the Vancouver game on the 27th, but we're talking about feisty games that are going to be really violent and difficult to play. That game against LA, the last of the month. Not only is that going to be a big game in the standings, that's going to be a nasty game. That I feel like that has the potential to be even nastier than the Calgary game. I mean, it's just going to be a very, very difficult month for the Ducks. You know, it really all starts on Sunday against New Jersey, and I don't know. I feel like if they get a win, if they get at least one win between New Jersey and Calgary, I feel like one win on those two games is important. I feel like obviously the Calgary one with the points in the standings is definitely the stronger game in the game you want to get points in. You want to get as many points as you can against the Flames. But it's not an easy schedule. And you've got teams who are just fighting to get in, and you've got some teams who could play spoiler. So it'll be interesting to see where they go. We'll move on a bit. We had one question to Reddit before we get to the discussion about either Kovalchuk. We had Halo this was on Reddit, had said, you've freed Marcus Pettersson. How well do you expect he does with Holzer on his right D? Now, of course, Boschman was the guy who played with him in last night's game, and I feel like that's what they're going to do most of the time. I don't think the Ducks even really have a back-to-back until the last two games of the season. So realistically, we could see Boschman with Pettersson for the rest of the season leading up until that game, depending on where the Ducks are in the standings. I don't even know if we really see Holzer that much, but it all depends, I think, on where Francois Boschman is ready to go. If he doesn't feel like he's ready to go in a game, we'll see Holzer, and I don't think it will make too much of a difference in the pairings. I mean, it opens up a little bit more possibilities because then you have Holzer playing on his strong side as a right D, and you're not playing two lefties on that bottom pairing, so maybe it's a better opportunity, but it's not like Holzer is that much better than Francois Boschman. But, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that. I feel like he's not going to tick the needle up any higher than Beauchemin would. And Pettersson's probably going to see a lot of Beauchemin, I feel like. I'm right there with you. There's a lot of days. Like, you look at after the game on Sunday, the Ducks have 2 days off. They travel to Calgary, then a day off. There's no back-to-backs, like you said. Then after the road trip, before they play L.A., not this Friday, but next, there's also 2 days off in between that. So I feel like Pettersson's going to be getting a lot of minutes, but I feel like Holzer's not going to be up there with him. I'd be surprised if Holzer is able to play and slot in over Boschman.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, other than maybe a matchup thing, you'd just prefer to have a right D on the right side. But, I mean, the Ducks really haven't shown that they prefer that sometimes because we've had Boschman and Pettersson together on a regular basis. And I feel like unless Boschman just isn't ready to go, he's probably going to be in the lineup. So, I don't know. We'll see, because you never know with Boschman. I mean, I feel like with no back-to-backs, he should be ready to go, but he's also sat out on some games where you expect him to be ready to go, and then Bieksa ends up playing back-to-back games, or then sometimes Boschman ends up playing back-to-back games. So, I think it all just depends on Boschman's status and really what Randy Carlyle wants to do.
Yeah, it's all about what RC wants to do, man. RC and GMBM. Who my buddy Jay hates when I say GMBM. He always thinks I'm talking about bowel movements. He's like, you got to stop saying that, man. You got to say Bob Murray. You can't say BM. Like, all right,
every time I say, I feel like in the back of my head, every time if I don't say GMBM, I'm gonna end up saying Brian Murray and looking like an idiot because I feel like, so I always try and say GMBM, and then every time I say Bob Murray, I have to like double check in my head that I said the right one before I continue to go on. So that's most of the time why I say it. But I get where he's coming from. I mean,
yeah, no, I've said it to Brian Murray before as well. I've totally done that. So this is winding down to the end of the season, man. We got 3 weeks left, and then it's happy fun time playoffs.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's happy fun time playoffs. I mean, we're not there yet, so I think we all
got to be positive. I'm usually the pessimist, but I really feel like I need the Ducks to make the playoffs, and I really need the Kings to not make the playoffs because I got to bet with my buddy Jay that if the Kings miss, that he has to buy me playoff tickets. And if the Ducks, and if the Kings make it, I have to buy him playoff tickets. Or
if they both
Ducks
make
last
it
season. So the bet was I would bet the Kings didn't make the playoffs. He said they would.
Yeah.
And so if they miss the playoffs, he has to buy me, Friday. Was it? Yeah, the end of the season game, the Dallas game against the Ducks on Friday, April 6th. And if the Ducks miss the playoffs, but if they make the playoffs, then we got to buy playoff tickets. You know what I mean? So either one of us has to buy tickets if the Kings make or lose. So let's just hope the Kings lose. I don't want Jason to win. I don't want the Kings in the playoffs. So
I feel like only one of them gets in at this point, either Anaheim or LA. I don't know if Colorado or Dallas really slow down. I mean, McKinnon's carrying Colorado, and Dallas is, I feel like they're a better team than LA and maybe even a better team than Anaheim. So I feel like at this point it probably is only 3 Pacific Division teams get in. So one of you is buying tickets for the other person.
Oh, absolutely. And you're looking at this stretch. We just talked about, Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and then almost like the night off against Vancouver, which we hope the Ducks don't take the night off. But then you got LA at home, and then you have McKinnon in Anaheim on Sunday. So that's going to be a scary game with Colorado. That's a huge game. And then Minnesota, who is no slouch. And then you have Dallas to round out the homestand. And then you have then the Ducks have to fly to Arizona and play their final game of the season. So not an easy stretch of games, but there's definitely winnable games. This is where we're going to find out if the Ducks are playoff ready and if they're ready to to step up and play at that next level.
Isn't it funny how it always works out in the schedule where the last game somehow always means something in the standings? Because you mentioned 3 of the 4 teams there. The Ducks are fighting with LA for the final spot in the Pacific and then fighting with Colorado and Dallas for the final wildcard spots. I don't know. It's funny how that always works out because all 3 of those games are going to be huge in the standings, and the Ducks need to get points, if not win, all 3 of those games to either solidify themselves in that final spot in the Pacific or to cling on and get one of those wildcard spots. I didn't expect this. Even when we talked about the last few games, I think it was about a week ago when Dallas and Colorado were a little bit farther down in the standings, I didn't really think those would be as important as they look right now.
No, it's true, man. It seems like it happens every year, and the Ducks really, we can't say it enough, need to not take the foot off the gas. Let's shift gears here a bit. There's somebody coming to the NHL from the KHL who was originally from the NHL. Ilya Kovalchuk decided to wait another year and not have GMs agree on where he should play. He's going to come into the NHL this summer as a free agent July 1st. Which is just very funny to me because he talked all kinds of crap last year about how he had no plans. He's not coming to the NHL. He doesn't want to. Now he changed his tune. He wants to be part of the triple gold club, right? He's now got that Olympic gold when the NHL's not around, and now he wants to come to the NHL and try to win a Stanley Cup. He'll be 35 this summer, Eddie. Do you think he has a chance to play in Anaheim? It doesn't seem like a Bob Murray move, but it's definitely something that piques interest because he's a high-level player. And even at 35, I think Kovalchuk will still be dangerous.
I don't think so, but it's kind of an interesting to talk about. I mean, we have to remember that Patrick Eaves is still hurt out of this lineup, so he's a guy who still has to slot in to that top 9 as it currently stands and has to bump somebody out into the 4th line. So if you bring in Kovalchuk as a free agent, then you're bumping somebody else down there. And I feel like the realistic option to bump anybody out right now is probably Richie. As unfortunate as it is, I think he's a guy who'd get bumped down to the 4th line before anybody else. That's bringing in Patrick Eaves. And then from there, if you bring in Kovalchuk, if you can even afford to bring in Kovalchuk, he realistically would slot onto a top line with Getzlaf and Perry or Getzlaf and Raquel or some kind of combination of that. I think it'd be a crime not to play him with Ryan Getzlaf. But then you're bumping down Kasha or Cogliano to the 4th line. It makes your entire lineup stronger for sure. But then you're getting guys who shouldn't be playing 8 to 10 minutes a night, and they are. So I don't know. It's an interesting discussion because I am really interested to see where he ends up going because now he really gets the choice and he's probably going to get paid because he's coming in as a free agent and somebody's going to overpay. Somebody always does. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up, whether it's Anaheim or somewhere else.
The rumor is New York, the Rangers.
Yeah. Which is weird.
The rumor,
they just sold the farm essentially, and they were like rebuilding, and now they're going to bring in a 35-year-old guy from the KHL. I don't know.
I don't see why that would be a good fit for Kovalchuk. I mean, they're not going to be NHL playoff ready, right? It's not like the Rangers are going into the summer. From all accounts, it looks like they're going to be retooling and rebuilding rather than trying to bring in high-priced free agents. But who knows? We've seen stranger things happen, and GMs make dumber decisions. But if he slots in on Anaheim, I wouldn't mind seeing Richie get bumped and him playing with Henrique and Kasha and setting him up for one-timers all night.
If he comes over, he's coming over to play first-line minutes. I feel like that's part of his contract right there, that he has to be on the first line. There's no way he comes over.
So
It'd
then
be
you're
like
bumping Perry off.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, there's no way he comes over and doesn't play. It'd be like a Vadim Sapachev type of situation with Vegas where he doesn't get the role he wants, so he'll just head back to Russia. That's what I feel like it would be. I mean, any contract he signs, he's going to have to get confirmation that as long as he produces, he's going to be on a top line.
Vegas mismanaged the hell out of that guy. I mean, really, they gave that guy like no minutes. They wanted him to play for the Chicago Wolves, right? Their farm team. It's just like it was their big signing. He was going to come over and dangle everybody in the NHL. They didn't give that guy a chance.
No.
So it was mismanagement to me. I kind of don't blame him for going for leaving Vegas. I mean, Vegas obviously didn't need him with how well their season ended up turning out. But to see Kovalchuk come to Anaheim, that tells you right there it's not happening.
No.
He's not going to be playing first line. Can you imagine that? Corey Perry's going to be like, oh, it's cool. Yeah, come on over and and play on our team. I'll just play third line minutes now. I don't care. I mean, no. I mean, Corey's still got pride and still wants to play with his boy Getzlaf. And I just can't imagine Kovalchuk coming in and being able to have any sort of clout to make that sort of call. It's not happening.
Yeah. I believe he would have to come over and ask JT Brown for his number back too, which might be a difficult situation. So I don't know, but where do you think he ends up realistically? I mean, there's a lot of interesting situations. I would normally say Vegas, but with that whole Vadim Shapachev situation, and they both play on the same team in the KHL, I'm sure some not so nice things were said about Vegas and their organization. So where do you think he lands if not Anaheim?
Honestly, I feel like a nice spot for him to land would be in Dallas.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good move for Dallas. I really do. That just would make their top six that more potent for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah.
They need to make the most out of the Tyler Seguin contract, as he's going to be due some money, I believe, next summer.
Yeah.
So why not get a cup run in for Dallas? I feel like that's the move.
I mean, there's a connection there with Radulov. I don't think they played on the same team, but they obviously know each other. I think the only thing with Dallas is you've got to work them in somehow, because they have some guys coming off. I feel like they can make it to work, because Kari Letnit's huge $5.9 million contract is off the books this year. You've got
there's Dan your Kovalchuk money.
Yeah, Dan Hamhuis, his 3.75 comes off. So you've got about $10 million to work with. That's definitely enough to sign Kovalchuk. I mean, we'll get into a bit of what we think it would cost to get him here anyway, but it opens it up, and I think it's an interesting option. The only other team I feel like could be really interested in maybe is the Boston Bruins, and I think it'd be a good fit for him there as well. I think it all depends on what they do with Rick Nash in the offseason, if they decide to re-sign him or not. I don't think they do. But that's another destination he could go as well, because Boston isn't a team that really has to win now. They've got a lot of young guys coming up, and their core isn't that old. But if you're looking for like a guaranteed top six scorer in the NHL, why not sign Kovalchuk for 2 seasons with your extra cap space instead of bringing back Rick Nash?
No, it's true. I would have said that LA would have been in the running, but they decided to spend some big money on Dion Phaneuf by sucking up his $5.2 million contract. I mean, and that guy's got a no move clause, no trade clause, modified, but still, it's like I really thought LA would be poised to grab a Kovalchuk and take a chance, because, I mean, they were kind of circling around as an option at one point when there was rumors about Kovalchuk. So I don't see him coming to Anaheim, and I don't feel like he'd be a fit in San Jose now that Evander Kane's there. If San Jose can sign Evander Kane, then there's really no chance of Kovalchuk going there, in my opinion. I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
So things work out differently. But I don't think he comes to the Pacific Division. He's going to end up being in the East Coast. I
Yeah.
hope he doesn't go to Dallas, but I feel like that would be a good fit for him.